Hey guys, Tim Brown with Re-Up Men's Movement, and excited about this episode today. I've got Sean Perry with me, and Sean has been a financial advisor with Baird Securities. I've been doing that for quite a while now. He's a father of three amazing kids and married to Natalie, and just a great family. Have invested in other people for years and years and years, and just has brought value to so many young people, especially lives over the years. And so, Sean, I know you've got something today that you want to kind of specifically talk about. I'm going to kind of get out of your way and turn the mic over to you and let you roll. And if you need me for anything in the next few minutes, just let me know. But I'm going to let you kind of take it from here.
Okay, that sounds great. Tim and I were talking about just lessons that can be shared across the ministry, and I was talking to him about one of the more impactful things I think that I've ever learned, and that comes out of Henry Cloud's book, Changes That Heal. Changes That Heal was the book that came right before Boundaries, and was the book that really, Boundaries made Henry Cloud maybe more popular, but for me, Changes That Heal has been the book that's been
Two great books.
Really impactful. But in there, Henry lays out at the beginning of the book that in order relationally or individually to have growth, you have to have grace plus truth plus time. And that's the equation for growth. You have to have grace, truth, and time. He references Luke 13, the parable of the barren fig tree, says in verse 6, and he told this parable, a man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came seeking fruit on it and found none. And he said to the vine dresser, look, for 3 years now I've come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and I find none. Cut it down. Why should it use up the ground? And he answered him, sir, let it alone this year also until I dig around it, put on manure, and then if it should bear fruit next year, well and good. But if not, you can cut it down. And what Cloud says about this verse is the vine dresser comes in and wants to just cut the tree down because it's not producing fruit. Yeah. But relationally, that's not really the way to properly address this. So he gives us a equation or a way to go about it when he says, let it alone this year also. So that's time. Give it a year, but give it a defined period of time.
Right.
Dig around it. So he says that digging around it is the truth. You're digging up the dirt. You're loosening the dirt around the tree, but also put on the manure, and the manure would be grace there. And a fig tree produces fruit twice a year.
Right. So
to give it a full year gives it 2 cycles to develop fruit. And then at that point you don't see fruit, then it's time to cut it down. And when you and I were talking, I think inside my marriage, inside relationships with young people, inside of most relationships, this plays in the back of my head. Yeah. And as I'm addressing this situation, do I need to lead with grace or do I need to lead with truth? I tend to have a mentality of being more truth driven. So I'm constantly thinking, do I need to be given grace more in this situation? Right. But I think it's just helpful to think about as we interact with people, am I giving too much grace? In the book, Cloud says that grace without truth is license, and truth without grace is judgment. And it's just this idea that in whatever specific situation we're dealing with, just taking an accounting of, are we giving this enough time, or are we being too graceful or too truthful as we're interacting with this situation with our spouse or this young person we're mentoring or this person at work. And it's been a really life-changing sort of mentality for me.
Well, I think the thing that comes with the grace, the time issue there, is something that especially men struggle with, is it takes some patience. And that's not one of our strong suits as men lots of times, is the patience part of that. But anything worthwhile, investing in the time and all that, it takes a level of patience.
It does. You're right.
And then, but that, to me, then that's when you kind of fall over into the grace side too, because if you display the grace, that automatically kind of leads you into being patient. I think.
It does. And I think, but the other side of that too can be the patience forever becomes license and becomes passivity and us avoiding dealing with issues. So just thinking through them. And I don't know, there's not a perfect scenario, but it's definitely great to try to weigh all three of those as you start to think about how to respond to a situation.
And I think one of the other things men struggle with in general too is grace. I mean, we're just kind of, we're those kind of guys. I'm just going to smack him and with the truth. Mm-hmm. But yeah, am I showing grace? So my definition of grace has always been unmerited favor. Mm-hmm. That's the one I like.
It's a great one.
Yeah, but grace is probably not something we all score real high on the spiritual gift test as far as men is concerned. So I can see where that in the back of your mind you're always saying, am I displaying enough grace? Mm-hmm. I think that's a struggle for a lot of guys.
It is, for sure. Yeah. And there are guys, I think, that struggle on the other end, that they just don't want to address issues, and that manifests itself in other ways too. So.
What has been some fruit maybe you've seen by kind of displaying that?
Well, I think with me, specifically in my marriage, it's just realizing that I just need to be more graceful. Almost always. I had a young guy a few years ago ask me, like, what are you learning in your marriage? And I said, I'm learning to bite my tongue more. And my wife didn't think that was funny, but the point was, it's like everything can't be an issue, and my old business partner, which we laugh about all the time, always said a bulldog can whoop a skunk any day, but it's seldom worth it. And it's just so true. Like, we just can't make everything the main thing. Right. And we got to figure out, there are things that we need to address, but generally for myself personally, I just usually need to be more graceful.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I can tell you, if you didn't get something out of today, you weren't listening. Let's just put it that way. So, Sean, thanks for sharing it. That's one of your gifts, is always sharing what you've learned.
Sometimes the hard way.
Well, right? You seem to be a really good student, and so I'm not a very good student, but you seem to be a good student.
Well, thank you.
Well, and you're willing to share what you learned. So thanks again. So, guys, hope that was beneficial to you. Share this with somebody, and we'll see you next time.